For this exercise, you are asked to differentiate 5x to the minus 2. The first step has just come into view, and you can see that this is telling me that I'm going to be differentiating with respect to x. The contents of the brackets, which you can see, is the 5x to the minus 2. The next step of the calculation is come into view, and you can see that this was achieved as follows. You take this minus 2 and you use it to multiply this 5, and you can see that calculation has appeared here. Now I'm going to turn my attention to this x to the minus 2, and I'm going to subtract 1 from this minus 2. So if you look here, you can see I've wrote down the x, and in the bracket I've got the minus 2 minus the 1. Moving on to the next line of the calculation, you can see that this minus 2 times the 5 has given us the minus 10. And this here has been wrote down here as x to the minus 3. Now this minus 3 has appeared because here you can see it's minus 2 minus 1, which clearly gives us minus 3. Now I'll put this to one side, and we can now write out the following, that the differentiation of 5x to the minus 2 is indeed minus 10 x to the minus 3. So we can say that this here is the answer to this exercise. However, when you perform a differentiation, you need to appreciate that it's not usual to have your answer have a minus power as shown here. It is normal to express answers where you've removed any minus powers from the answer. That's not to say that what we have here is in any way wrong. It's just standard practice that we go another stage further and rewrite this answer differently so we get rid of negative powers as shown in this example in this position. Let's move the answer to one side, and let me remind you of the following, that x to the minus 3 can be written as 1 over x to the 3. Now this knowledge is taken from an understanding of indices. So if you're going to move forward with differentiation, you really need to ensure that you have a good understanding of indices in mathematics. But essentially you can think of this as follows. You take this x to the minus 3 and you put it below a 1 and look to the 3, and you can see there's no sign in this position. Now that implies it's positive. So you can think of it as follows. You take this x to the minus 3 to this position and you change this negative sign to a positive sign, but you can see a positive sign is not placed here. It is implied that it is positive. Now that's not an understanding of why this is correct, but you can think of it as a memory aid if you like. Understanding why x to the minus 3 is the same as 1 over x to the 3 is important, and you would need to ensure, as I've already said, that you're up to speed with indices in mathematics. Let's now turn our attention to what's just come into view, and you can see that I've taken this and I've placed it down here, and I'm saying it's equal to this. And if you look at this, you can see that I've still got the minus 10, but I've introduced this multiplication so I can emphasize the fact that in this position, I've put 1 over x to the 3, which has replaced this x to the minus 3 here, because we understand this fact. Continuing, we can say that this is equal to minus 10 over x to the 3. In other words, 10 times 1 is 10, and this minus, we ensure we don't forget it by placing it here, and you can see we're dividing by x to the 3. So we've already seen that this is the answer, but you can now note that I've gone on further to get rid of the minus 3, and you can see that the other answer I can give is shown here, where this is the answer to this exercise. In fact, both of these are the answer to this exercise. It's just more usual to show this as your answer because you have ensured that there is no negative powers, as this answer expresses a negative power. If you look here, there is no negative power because in front of this 3, although there isn't a sign, it implies that it is positive. So of the two, you can think of this as being the better answer. And if you were doing any examinations, personally, I'd show both. I would get it as far as here and then go on the extra step to show this as my answer.